Alright guys, so today I want to show you how to set up the quick pull feature of XIM Nexus. This is the fourth part of probably 6 videos in which I will show you all trigger features of XIM Nexus. In the previous part you have learned how to set up multi-bindings. If you haven't watched it yet, then you can find a link to it in the video description. The quick pull feature is an option that allows you to shoot almost as fast as a rapid fire script. This is achieved by an innovative trigger reset mechanic. Whenever you start to release a controller trigger, your Nexus will reset the entire trigger percentage, which allows you to directly shoot again. What I mean by that is that you no longer have to fully release a trigger to fire another bullet. Let's look at this picture for example. The normal trigger range goes from 1% in the beginning to 100% when you fully bottom it out. So this whole blue range reflects the entire trigger distance. Let's say the average game starts to shoot the weapon when you press the trigger to the 70% mark. So once you press the trigger to that point, your weapon will fire a bullet. Now in order to shoot a second shot, you would need to release the trigger and then move it back to the 70% mark. So each time you want to shoot again, you have to cover quite some distance with your trigger. Quick pull will change that. You no longer have to fully release the trigger in order to start and complete the next pull. Let's say you moved the trigger to the 70% mark to fire a bullet. The moment you start to release the trigger, quick pull will completely reset your entire trigger percentage. So if you release the trigger from 70 to let's say 50%, then the game will think that you completely released the trigger again. What your Nexus will do now is to treat the remaining 50% of your trigger as an entirely new trigger range. So your 0% trigger is mapped to the 50% mark. Now by moving the trigger from 50 to 100%, your game will think that you actually moved the trigger from 0 all the way to 100 again. And as a result, your weapon will shoot at the 70% mark, which will now be mapped to the 85% point. This may sound complicated, so let's do another example. Let's say you moved the trigger to the 100% mark, so you fully bottomed it out. And once you are there, you will reset to the 90% mark. The remaining 10% will now be regarded as the entire trigger range. So every single percent is mapped to 10%. That means if you move the trigger to the 97% mark, your weapon will shoot again, as you technically moved the trigger by 70% again. Now before we head into the setup guide, the best use case for quick pull is of course when paired with a hair trigger. That way you can instantly shoot again by minimally pressing and releasing the trigger again, no matter the distance your trigger is pressed right now. This allows you to shoot almost as fast as a rapid fire script. Now to set up today's feature, just go into the button bindings of your Nexus config. If your config isn't running on the expert mode yet, then you will have to activate it at the bottom of your config. After that, swipe 3 times to the right. That way you will enter the button bindings. Start by adding a new binding to the right trigger. You do that by clicking onto the corresponding button picture. And after that, click into the new binding to open its menu. First we will set up a normal fire action. Set the threshold percentage to 70% and then select the right trigger at the bottom. And the slider will be set to 100%. After that, you can close this menu. Scroll all the way to the bottom now, there you can adjust the quick pull feature. You can choose between 3 options. You can either use it only for the right trigger, the left trigger, or for both triggers. For this video I will go with the right trigger option. Now let's head over to the console or PC. At the bottom of the screen you can see the animated controller as well as my right trigger. When I now slowly press the trigger from 0 to 100%, I will shoot my weapon at the 70% mark. Now to activate a quick pull, I have to release the trigger a little bit and then I can initiate a new trigger pull by slightly pressing the trigger again. So as you can see, I am no longer fully releasing the trigger. By the way, what I am using here is an akimbo weapon, so 2 bullets are consumed per fire instance. Now let's get back to the manager. Let's change the bindings to a hair trigger. For that, you only have to adjust the threshold percentage at the top to 1%. Before I will go back into the game and show you how this works, let's close this menu and create a new binding. Some of you may want to double bind the right trigger with a second action. If that is the case for you, then you will have to do an extra step to realize a quick pull. I will open the menu of the new binding now. Let's say I want to activate motion at 1%, so I will pick the gyro symbol at the bottom and keep the percentage at the top on 1%. When I now leave this menu and continuously trigger a quick pull, you can see how both actions are being reset. This is usually not how you want it to work. So what you have to do now is to add another button binding and head into its menu. This binding will tell the quick pull feature up to which point it is allowed to reset. Keep the percentage at the top on 1% and after that assign the right trigger to it. Next you have to move the slider to 0%. At last you have to close this menu now and open the original hair trigger binding. Make sure to click on the right one, it's the one which doesn't have the 0% symbol next to the right trigger. Now set the threshold percentage at the top to 2%. After that you can close this menu. When I now continuously press and release the trigger, you can see that only the fire action is being reset. And my motion binding will stay active for as long as I don't completely let go of the right trigger. So by adding that binding, we have told Nexus to only reset the fire action. Any other binding will not get reset by the quick pull. Now let's switch over to the console or PC. Now while I do some quick pulls, I will also slightly move the controller to show you that motion is still active. In the meantime, you can press the save button in your manager and exit your config. In the next episode, I will show you how to do the trigger calibration. So guys, if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button or maybe even subscribe to this channel to not miss out on any of the upcoming videos. Also, contrary to popular belief, this channel is not an official XIM channel. I run this channel in my free time to bring you guys the latest XIM news and tricks. So if you want to support what I do, then maybe consider to join the YouTube channel membership. Channel members usually get around 1 to 4 weeks of early access to all new videos. Plus, we also have a nice little Discord to discuss XIM settings and other stuff. But that's about it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching and I will maybe see you in the next one.